feel like Gordon Bombay would have taken his career to even further heights.
Everything's flashy, everything's cocaine, everything's
Fun.
Open wide for some
I
soccer.
don't care what you think about what your personal thoughts are at home. I care that you hate the
Call
Cowboys.
this college ruled.
Welcome, everybody, to the Sports Experience Podcast. I'm Chris. This is Dom. We are just a couple of comics talking sports. Before we get started, please do all the social media things that we need you to do.
We need your socials.
Comment, share, viruses.
I may or may not sleep with you if you follow us. That's
true.
your decision.
Not
but
sex. He is the king cuddler.
Yes.
So, just saying.
Cuddle champion.
But if you do want a dinger, he is hitting him. All right. We are in the middle of our block episode of Father and Sons. Last episode was Calvin Hill, the running back. This episode is
Grant Hill, the small forward.
There you
The
go.
amazing small forward who kind of had a career trajectory like his dad in pro sports.
very much, and I swear to God, they almost did it to themselves, but
And it's not their fault.
Yes.
It's like goodwill. It's not your fault.
well, I feel like Grant really is the last, I feel like he's the reference. They're just like, yeah, you're not playing on that injury. It's just going to make it worse.
How are you walking?
Yeah, that. Oh, my God.
Grant Henry Hill, born October 5th, 1972, in Dallas, Texas, obviously.
His
Because
dad had
that's-
1,000-yard rushing that year. Come on.
His dad was making them babies on and off the field. Calvin, his dad, a Pro Bowl running back, most notably for the Dallas Cowboys. His mom, Janet, worked at the Pentagon, as we had discussed. So he has a very well-to-do upbringing because they eventually settle in Northern Virginia, D.C. area. Kind of a very different upbringing, I should say. Well-to-do, very different from everyone.
Well, like we were talking about in the Calvin episode, that for his area, it was very. He was like, yeah, everybody grew up in politics, and their parents were, working for whoever.
I knew that intern that did stuff.
Yes, exactly. Monica was my babysitter. But that's the thing, because it was normal for him, but he said that when he went to college and was talking about it, he was like, oh yeah, it wasn't normal. And the thing that he said he wanted as a kid, and he would bring it up all the time, was he wanted siblings and he wanted cousins.
He was an only child, just like actually both of his parents were only child.
Yep, and
children.
I thought it was interesting because his mom was like, me and his father loved being an only child. Grant hated it.
Yeah.
It was like, oh yeah, that kind of sucks.
And that was kind of the struggle as he grew up, is he just wanted to fit in and be normal and be one of the guys. And it's like, well, your parents are ridiculously educated, ridiculously well-to-do.
And his dad was famous.
And you think for Grant, and I always look at it like this and what he ended up accomplishing. When you come up with almost nothing, failure is not an option. For Grant Hill, he could have did whatever he wanted. He could have sat on his, ass and done nothing in life. But the fact that he had the type of hunger and the type of parents and role models in his life, it's like, hell yeah, man. Good for you, dude.
Yeah.
So when he was not allowed to play football up until the 9th grade, I think his parents might have seen what happened to Calvin and been like,
which is rare for the time, but now you look at it as like, oh, that's kind of common, and you have to have Calvin being like, no, he shouldn't play football.
Not until he's a little bit older
And bigger.
Yeah, in 8th grade at Lawton Junior High School, he was very kind of shy about his parents' careers and things. He faked an illness to go to the nurse's office. He was so nervous his dad was speaking at the school.
Oh, yeah. I saw that.
Yeah. He picked up basketball, though, and one of his practices, his dad showed up in a Mercedes, and he felt embarrassed because his dad showed up in a Mercedes because he didn't want the other kids to feel bad. He made him come in the family VW after that.
Well, it really is more of the money, you know what I mean? Or the famous, where he doesn't want the attention for nothing.
Yeah, even as a freshman in high school when he's starting for varsity, he's getting recruiting letters and he's telling him to keep them in the office so his teammates don't feel bad.
Well, the coach originally asked him to be on the varsity team, and he said no.
Yeah.
Which is kind of ridiculous when you think about it. But he said he wanted to play with his friends. That's what he was doing. And then his friends heard it was just like, no, you made the varsity team.
You need
This
to
is
play for
awesome.
them.
Yeah,
You're like Adam Banks in D3. Go and do it.
right.
Just don't go back.
it's true.
Don't go back. At South Lakes High School, basically just emerges as one of the most dominant players in the country.
Yep.
Because he's the same weight as his dad. He's just got 4 inches on him. So he's like 6'8" in high school, just absolutely out and out dominating everybody.
But like some of these guys,
Great All-American, McDonald's All-American, yeah.
and just built of muscle. So you know
Yeah.
how like some guys are like super skinny in high school and they gain a bunch. Like he was already built, like
Fully
ready
formed.
to go. Yeah.
Yeah. So when it comes time to pick a school,
Oh, I love this.
Oh God, oh the stories here. His mom wants him initially to go to Georgetown because it's close to home and a great school because Grant, much like his parents, ridiculously smart.
And this is the thing that I have to say is they wanted him to go to a really good basketball school.
But
Georgetown,
also a really good
but,
educational
yes,
school.
an Ivy League style. I mean, Georgetown's not, but whatever. But
North Carolina was his dad's choice, and
Yep.
North Carolina is probably one of the best public schools, colleges in the entire country. It's one of actually the oldest too.
Yep.
So, and a great basketball program at this time. But there's an incident I don't know if you had heard about where Georgetown is trying to recruit him.
Oh,
and
I didn't-
what happens?
I didn't hear about
All
that.
right. Well, let's go into it. So allegedly, this story goes, he's meeting with an academic advisor and head coach at the time, John Thompson.
Mm-hmm.
The academic advisor, what they do for all of Georgetown's athletes, asks him after like the workout and stuff to read a book. And not only read the book to prove that he can read, but tell her and Thompson what he read. He was so pissed off by that.
Insulted?
Yeah,
Yeah.
just insulted. He's like, you do know who my parents are, right? And you have my academic records.
Yeah, like literally he.
It's like the freaking Simpsons with the Yale when they try and get Rodney Dangerfield. He spelled Yale with a 6. You know, Yale could use an international airport. Like, he was so pissed off by that. He was like, well, I'm definitely going to North Carolina. But he doesn't choose North Carolina, just another school in North Carolina.
I thought it was interesting because he ends up choosing Duke. Duke is not a powerhouse in basketball at this point.
Well, actually, they are.
Oh, did they win
No, they hadn't won yet.
Okay.
But they had made the NCAA final in, I believe, '86. And then
with
they
Leitner.
had, yes,
Yeah, you're right.
And then they
You're
had
right.
the previous 2 years, they had made the Final Four, lost in the semifinal, and then they got absolutely just ass blasted by UNLV the year before
Check
Grant
out that
got there.
episode.
Yes, UNLV, Tark the Shark.
But they were like they were like this up and coming. They weren't like the North Carolina, UCLA, Georgetown where they had this.
They're coming out of nowhere and
And-
making everyone hate them in the process.
Well, everybody thought he was going to go to North Carolina, and he said that Mike Krzyzewski had this talk with him about, and for Krzyzewski's credit, he was just like found what Grant Hill wanted, and he's just like, come here, and it'll be like a brotherhood. We're going to be like a family. And he was like, oh really?
brothers?
Okay. Like literally, he said like Mike talked him into coming to Duke, where like at the beginning of his recruit, like he was.
Do you mean I can play karate in the garage with Bobby Hurley and Christian Leitner? Yeah, Nighthawk.
That was very much. He said that the talks that he had with him was like, yeah, this is a family. We have this great team. We're just missing you, kind of thing. It was very much like that. He goes to Duke.
He has to change his number though, because he was 32 in high school for
Yep.
a former South Lakes player who went to Georgetown. But Christian Leitner has 32, so we get the famous 33 now with
Which
Grant
I
Hill.
love.
Yeah,
That's the thing.
Dude, that's
It's a great-
iconic.
yeah.
Oh man. So his freshman year, and the team is loaded at this point. You got Hurley, you got Leitner, Brian Davis, Thomas Hill, Bill McCaffrey, who's
Bill McCaffrey.
Ed's brother, and what's his name? Christian's uncle. He was a good 3-point shooter for Vanderbilt and Duke.
That was quite the team, because we see them in this 91. I mean, shit.
I mean, they finished the season 6th overall. They get a number 2 seed. They roll through Louisiana Monroe, Iowa, UConn, and St. John's in the Elite Eight to get to the Final Four. And who do they play, Chris?
Well, I mean, I don't even want to get into it.
You know what
It's
I mean?
so sad.
It is very sad. I really wish UNLV would have won this game.
And just to look back at the UNLV, what we thought was going to be the dynasty.
But you're sitting in jacuzzis with known gamblers,
And
Chris.
then Duke comes in and they're like, no, we're going to be the dynasty. So they beat, and everyone thought UNLV could have won, but they beat them and go on to
79-77, yeah.
go on to face Kansas.
Face Kansas in the final. And to me, it's anticlimactic, this game for Duke. I mean, you had just literally slayed the dragon, and now you're going against Kansas.
And people say that sometimes the Final Four game is so much better than that final game.
Yeah, they go in and they beat them by 7. There was the iconic play from this game featuring Grant where Bobby Hurley threw up an alley-oop, and Grant makes this. It speaks to how athletic this man is. No, there's not a lot of people on the planet who could like reach backwards as they're jumping and then throw it down at full extension. I mean, it was pretty crazy. So they end up winning the national championship. Finishes as he's a starter on the best team in college basketball as a freshman. 11.2 points a game, 5.1 rebounds, 2.2 assists. But one national championship just isn't enough for these guys, is it, Chris?
Well, they come back the next year, and
everybody's back. And they go 34-2.
I was going to say they are the number 1 team. They're coming in. Everyone's like, this is Duke's season. They just bulldoze through everybody, essentially. And then we get, I mean, do you just want to get into the Final Four?
Yeah,
that's
why not?
Literally where
the Final Four is, well, no, the Elite Eight game is most important.
Oh, you're right.
Yes,
Elite
because
Eight.
it is honestly.
It is the Elite Eight.
They're playing in Philly at the Spectrum. They're facing a Kentucky team which has this massive Cinderella run under Rick Pitino. Jamal Mashburn and a collection of dudes that nobody wanted, basically.
Yep.
Nobody wanted.
And Pitino made them a really great kind of team coming together when you need to at the end. And this is, people say this is one of the best college basketball games. Like,
it honestly is, because Leitner doesn't miss in the whole game.
Yeah.
Makes all his field goals, all his
Crazy.
free throws. It's back and forth with 2.1 seconds left in overtime. Sean Woods hits a runner for Kentucky to put them up in the lead. But the Blue Devils still have a chance, and they get the son of a former college almost quarterback who threw some touchdowns in the NFL to do the inbound pass in Grant.
well, he asked Grant, he goes, do you think you can throw an accurate pass 75 feet? Krzyzewski asked him that, and he just says yes. And he goes, as soon as he told me he could do it, I knew he was going to do it. And I thought it was so good because when you look at the pass, it really is. Only Leitner could catch it. It's really right in, like right there. And I mean, it's bad defense. They don't really even D up on him. But he just turns around and hits one of the most iconic shots in college basketball. And I heard somebody say this about this era of college basketball, UNLV and then Duke coming through. They were like, this is when March became mad.
Oh, it was awesome.
And I like that. Yeah, because it really was when the college basketball, the NCAA tourney was like the fucking shit. Because you wanted Duke to lose.
You actively. And Grant Hill seems like a nice person, but the
he's
rest
so
of that
nice.
roster could kiss my fat ass.
Yep.
Oh, but what I never understood about that play, and I don't know if you've ever noticed this, I guess you want the extra defender to help against Leitner, but there was nobody on Grant.
I know.
He could just rear back and, fire
Throw it
it.
open.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like without any person in his face. Like he doesn't have to run along the baseline. He just stood there and tossed one of the greatest passes in college basketball history.
Yeah, because I think they put the extra guy on Leitner.
Yeah.
And they almost like don't do anything.
Yeah, it doesn't matter because
Yeah.
he catches it, turns around, shoots it in the goddamn basket.
Yeah.
92-93, everybody's back, but Leitner and Brian Davis. This is the year Grant leads the team in scoring, 18 points a game, also 6.4 rebounds and 2.8 assists. He's playing a little point guard this year with Bobby Hurley sidelined, and he's like that point forward. He's almost got that Magic Johnson vibe because of his ability to dribble at 6'8" and make great passes. Like he was a ridiculously talented player. They are ranked 10th at the end of the year. They get a 3 seed. But in the second round of the tournament, they're upset by Jason Kidd, who we did an episode on, and Cal.
Yeah.
And
which is a huge, because a lot of people thought this is another deep run. Even though Leitner's gone, like they're like, no, Grant's like the offense now. And then,
but yeah, and the season before, I forgot to bring up, they do win the NCAA title. They won 2 in a row.
Did we
they
not
beat the
bring that
Fab
up?
Five. Yeah.
Sorry. Yeah,
I don't like talking about that because of my love for Steve Fisher.
They beat Michigan in that. Yeah, I forgot we didn't bring that up. But yes, so they did go back-to-back. They were the first team to go back-to-back since UCLA had 14 in a row. So just saying.
When the tournament was like 3 games. Let's be honest here. It's
true.
You can't get that past me, John Wooden, and your ridiculous pyramid, you jagoff. All right, 93, 94. He's the man now because Hurley's gone.
Hurley's gone. I loved this because they were saying the offense just straight up went through him, and they had a play called Charlotte where that was just like, no, Grant's going to do what he needs to do. And they named it Charlotte because the Final Four was in Charlotte that year.
Oh, man.
And that's why they kept naming it because they were like, he's taking us there.
Yeah,
if we're going,
that's where we're going. 17.4 points a game, 6.9 rebounds, 5.2 assists. Like I said, he's the point forward now for them. Led the team actually in assists. Finish number 6th again in the AP poll. Have a number 2 seed and go on quite the tournament run. Beating Texas Southern, Michigan State, Marquette. Then upset Glenn Big Dog Robinson and Purdue in the Elite 8. And go to the Final Four, and this is a Final Four U of A played in.
Yep.
Yeah, with Damon Stoudemire, Khalid Reeves. I just want to bring that one up. They beat Florida in the semifinal game, and then they play Arkansas.
Which is just to
Those Arkansas teams, man, they were brutal.
tie it all together. Bill Clinton.
Yep.
Who he knows.
Because his mom is friends with Bill's wife, not his intern, but his wife.
It's such a weird thing because I saw an interview. They were like, "Do you like Duke basketball?" And he goes, "I like Grant Hill." And it was like,
I like Grant Hill and
all right.
McDonald's
All right,
and, dresses.
and finger popping bitches.
Oh, my God.
Is
he the half-bust of our presidents?
Oh man, maybe.
Oh, but they end up losing to Nolan
Arkansas.
Richardson and
Yeah.
Corliss Williamson in Arkansas, 76-72. But that's literally almost 3 national titles in his college career. And Grant, like men of their time, stayed 4 years in college.
And people say that he might have been the best college player of his era because you see him kind of do literally different kind of like roles in the team. And
but he like improved every year
Yep.
and got better in every area of his game as he's a freaking superstar.
He really is one of the most all-around. He's like his dad on the fucking football, like on the.
You're just a nice person.
And
like,
he's just an all-around. In '93, he was top defensive player. In '94, he was the
ACC
Player of the Year. First ACC player to ever have 1,900 points, 700 rebounds, 400 assists, 200 steals, and 100 blocks. So it keeps going down, and he just has triple digits on every stat.
He's a triple-double machine, as we see in the NBA, too. 94 draft. It's very top-heavy, this draft for the NBA. It's not like 96 where just everyone is amazing. You have really 3 main prospects in the top 3, and then Eddie Jones, who had a great career with the Lakers before Kobe showed up. But
you're right. It is very. So you have Glenn Robinson going first, Jason Kidd going second, and then Grant Hill going third. And then the thing that I saw that they were saying this that could be mixed up in any. Any one of those guys could have gone first. Any one of those guys could have gone second.
Well, Hill and Kidd are Hall of Famers, and Robinson made a number of All-Star teams during his career and won a title at the end with the Spurs. So, I mean, like I said, very top-heavy.
Yes.
Because there wasn't a heck of a lot afterwards. 94-95, 19.9 points a game, 6.4 rebounds, 5 assists as the team's starting small forward.
Oh, he got drafted by the Pistons. I don't think we said that.
A post-Bad Boy Pistons team, which is not good.
It is a very rebuild. I saw this commercial
But they're rebuilding it, unlike Detroit itself.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I saw this commercial that came out that I thought was great. It was like midway through their season. And because they were known as the Bad Boy Pistons, and he's known as like a super nice guy, and it's
they would have hazed the shit out of poor Grant.
It's Lampier coaching him how to be mean, and it's like one of the funnier.
I remember those.
It's it really is one of the funnier ones because he really knows how to like lean into it and be like, I'm being mean right now. It was really great. But the team is not good.
No.
He is great.
Yeah, he's great. He's the first Pistons rookie with 1,000 points since Isaiah Thomas.
Yep.
The team is bad, but he's co-rookie of the year with Jason Kidd.
First Piston to do that since Bing.
Dave Bing.
Oh, David.
Hitting those bangers.
That's right.
95-96, 20.3 points a game, 9.8 rebounds, which was a career high, and 6.9 assists. So he's just lighting up the stat sheet, and they get into those weird teal uniforms, which are so cool in the 90s.
Those.
Oh, man.
Well, in 94, just to put some perspective on it, Jordan is playing baseball.
For a little bit.
And they're saying Grant's like the next guy.
Well,
like he keeps, you know what I mean?
Much like Jordan, he is super marketable too because he's so nice. He has a sense of humor. He just seems like that's why I hated him on Duke. I'm like, why can't I hate your entire roster?
And we see that he gets like first in All-Star voting. Like he has a bunch of stuff that at the Pistons, because they're not winning, but everybody could see what a great, essentially marketable guy he is.
Well, 95-96, they actually make the playoffs.
Yep.
Granted, they lose to a certain team with a certain man's ambiguous penis, but things are looking up in Detroit. And Hill is the most marketable star in the NBA not named Michael Jordan.
Yep, most triple-doubles that year with 10. Like we were saying, he is a guy that you want to build a team around. They just couldn't figure it out.
Yeah, 96-97 was an All-NBA first team. Won a gold medal in the Atlanta Olympics for the Dream Team, second Dream Team. Led the team and the Olympics in scoring and steals, which is pretty impressive when you look at that roster. 21.4 points a game, 9.4 rebounds, 7.3 assists, and was the first player since Larry Bird to go 29-7, and the last until Russell Westbrook had his MVP season.
Yep.
That's the type of amazing talent this guy was, for those of you who've never got to watch him play.
Well, they kind of put him, like we were saying how it happened with Duke, where Bobby kind of like stepped out. He really is playing like this point forward, like how Scottie Pippen does it.
Magic too, kind of.
And that's when you see the assists and the rebounds go up, because he could just rebound over any guard. Like the offense is going through him, like
faster than small forwards.
Very
quicker,
very much.
Shots.
I would say more like Magic than Pippen, because
I agree 100%.
Yeah, just the rebounding and all of that kind of shit,
and a likable guy.
Because
Scottie Pippen wasn't very likable.
Oh God, he was a jerk.
Led the league in triple doubles that year with 13. There were 35 triple doubles in the NBA that season. He had 13 of them.
Yep,
that's amazing. They lost in the first round of the playoffs to the Hawks. Leitner was on that team.
Yeah,
oddly enough, Dikembe Mutombo. They during the series, he averaged almost 24 a game. They lost in 5. 97-98, another great season for him. Not so much for the Pistons, as we'll keep on seeing. 21.1 points a game, 7.7 rebounds, 6.8 assists, almost 2 steals a game. And then we get into our favorite season, the lockout season.
Yeah, 99 just kind of shit just goes. I mean,
has a good season though. Again, another 21.1 points a game, over 7 assists, 7 rebounds, and then over 6 assists. They make the playoffs, but lose again to the Hawks in 5. And then in 99-2000 is his contract season, and he all but balls out that season. This is probably the best he ever played in his career, I would say,
but
in the NBA.
Some say, because this is his 6th season as a Piston, and some say his workload was too much. So we see it kind of like,
he is the team at this point. I think Dumars is gone by now.
And we see right before the 2000 playoffs, he injures his ankle. He has, and
April 15th against the Heat.
It's like a bad sprain, but because the playoffs are coming up, he decides to play on it, like his father.
Like his father did.
And I think it
just got worse.
Game 2, and it just keeps progressively getting worse. Game 2 against the 76ers, he hears like a pop. And you see him out there.
Yeah.
And he's just like limping, and he's like debating whether or not he should stay out. And like, this is what teams do not let their players do anymore.
Yeah, no. This is medical staff of their time, Chris.
It's crazy. And he goes back in and he's like, yeah, something popped. I think I need to get off the court. They x-ray it. And he goes, yeah, the trainer was like, he was like, his bone in his...
What is wrong with you?
In his ankle was detached.
Yeah.
It was like just floating there. And it was just kind of like, oh, yeah. And this is where we see a career that should be, I mean, he had 6 years of Hall of Fame shit.
Oh,
and I was thinking about it with Bonds, where we were talking about how like Bonds' career fucking skyrockets after he gets those roids. But you look at those older numbers and you're like, yeah, but he still had those numbers. This is like that, but it's just like the other
for
way.
another reason and not being a dick. Just your body giving up on you.
So
this season he has a career high in points a game,
Yep.
25.8, 6.6 assists, 5 rebounds, 5.2 assists, and he's a free agent. And this is an interesting offseason because Orlando's trying to reinvent itself after Shaq and Penny are pretty much gone. So they go after and they get Tracy McGrady in free agency. They were that close to, I don't know if you know this, to signing Tim Duncan away from San Antonio.
Oh, I didn't know that. That's wild.
He, for whatever reason, I don't know if it was Robinson or Popovich, but
Orlando
offered him a shit ton of money. He just stayed. But the Magic are successful in bringing Grant Hill in.
Did you see, because the 2 front runners to bring Grant Hill was the Magic and the Bulls. So the Bulls were the other team, and his wife says the Bulls had a video shot with Oprah telling him to come to Chicago. And they were like, so it was quite a...
But you know what I think factored in, though? The Magic stayed competitive after they lost Shaq. At this point, the Bulls were the absolute dog shit franchise because the Last Dance had just happened.
Yep.
So I think that might have factored in, or the 7-year contract worth $92.8 million.
I was just going to say, I think the Orlando was like, no, we will pay you as much as we physically can. Like, I don't care.
I drove a truckload of money up to my house. What could I do?
We're rich bitches, and that was the thing. So he's looking at that he's going to team up with Tracy McGrady. Everybody's looking at this team as like, oh, this is a high flying scoring.
So the interesting thing about this deal, though, is it wasn't a straight free agency. It was a sign and trade, and what the Magic gave up, it was Chucky Atkins and a player we talked about on this podcast previously, Ben Wallace,
which will play.
That's a bad move. I mean, a good move for Detroit.
Yeah,
they were able to get that out of losing their best player of the last decade, but still.
Well, how the spider webs, it breaks off. We see the Pistons end up winning a championship with Ben Wallace a couple of years down the road. So I'm just saying, and technically, I saw that. It came as an agreement, so technically he kind of was a free agent.
Yeah.
But the Pistons were like, can we do a sign and trade? And he was like, yeah, we'll do a sign and trade. And
because that's just Grant Hill.
And Orlando was like, yeah, we'll do that too. And luckily for the Pistons, because they end up like rebuilding off of that.
Well, for the Magic, and because of Grant's ankle issue, which keeps recurring and crippling him essentially, it's one of your all-time backfires. He only plays in 4 games his first season, 14 in his second season, 29 in his third, and missed the entirety of his 4th season with the team.
I saw
that's just sad, dude.
In the 3rd and 4th season, he said that when he was trying to come back, he was pushing himself too hard. Again, the medical staff would not allow this, and that's what happened with them shutting him down for the entire 4th season, because they were like, no. You're not going to play until it's like completely better. And because it literally was the ankle every single time.
It's not like I went to medical school or anything like that. No. 2003, 2004, the Pistons, that's the year that they ended up winning.
Yep.
March of 2003. The doctors actually refractured his ankle and then got it realigned to his leg bone.
Yep.
That's some messed up.
So he's gone through some major surgeries in this 4-year time, in which the first 6 years he really wasn't injured. He was playing almost every game.
Well, that could have been part of it. How they have those, taking those games
too
up
much
at the
work
end of the year. Yeah. And then 5 days after that surgery.
Oh yeah.
He ends up getting effing MRSA. You talk about like the worst possible luck he could have. Like, for his dad, it's like, yeah, you get a knee injury, you're playing football. Like that, you're a running back. You touch the ball all the time. That happens. Fucking MRSA?
Yeah.
What the hell?
He almost died from it. They brought him in.
Almost
and
105 temperature?
Yep. They didn't know what was wrong. They thought maybe he overdosed. And then they finally, they were like, oh, he had surgery a couple of days ago. And then they looked at it. They're like, this is infected.
Don't die, Grant.
Yeah.
0405. He's finally playing again now.
It's not the same team.
No, because Tracy McGrady's gone to Houston. Steve Francis is in there. Plays in 67 games. He was the Eastern Conference Player of the Week during November. averaged 19.7 points a game, 4.7 rebounds, 3.3 assists. And you kind of start to see not only the age, but the injuries, but he's still a really good basketball player.
And all-around good basketball player. He said that when he came back in this season, he could tell he dropped off on a couple of areas, and he said that he couldn't stay in front of every player now, which I thought was kind of ridiculous. He was such a good defender. He was like, no, nobody can get around me. And he realized, like, when he came back, he was like, I'm a different player.
Yeah. Following season, only 21 games due to a groin injury and sports hernia surgery.
Well, the hernia came because he was favoriting his one leg too much. That's what they said.
It was like Bossy almost, I think, where his back gave out because of the way that he skated.
Yep.
Yeah, 06, 07. Ankle rotation therapy in Canada. Ends up starting at shooting guard now, playing in 65 games. 14.4 points a game, 3.6 rebounds, and 2.1 assists. They do make the playoffs, but of course they're swept by his old friends in Detroit.
The Pistons.
The Pistons. Was a free agent after the year and signs up in Phoenix with the Suns.
I heard the two teams that were really pushing were the Knicks and the Suns, and he wanted to go to the Suns because they were giving him more of like a leadership role.
And he fit that up-tempo style they were playing with Nash and D'Antoni. And this is when Phoenix is actually pretty darn good.
Yeah, Nash. I mean, he was winning those MVPs.
Outside of that 2-week appendectomy, because it's not a basketball season when Grant Hill isn't sidelined for some reason, the poor bastard. Had his first 70-game season since he played in Detroit. 13.1 points a game, 5 rebounds, and almost 3 assists. So that's pretty darn good for 07-08.
And he's becoming this role player, and that's the thing about him in this time is like he's completely reliable. If you look at these Suns teams, if the
Spurs and Lakers didn't exist,
that big dick motherfucker. That's what I mean, though. If we didn't have these, because the West was really good, you might see a Suns final run, but they just couldn't make it past either one of those teams.
Well, that's what always kind of surprised me about that Duncan and Orlando thing is like I think that might have been really appealing to him to go to the Eastern Conference when it was that bad at that time and just get away from Shaq and just completely dominate with Tracy McGrady and what was thought to be a healthy Grant
that
Hill.
would have been quite the.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been quite the trade.
Yeah, quite the trade. Free agency, 08-09. He plays in all 82 games.
I love that.
Grant did it.
Yep.
He did it.
One time.
All it takes is one time, according to Little Giants. 12 points a game, 4.9 rebounds, 2.3 assists. That year, he also won his first postseason series when they swept the Spurs.
Yep.
They go all the way to the Western Conference Finals to lose to Kobe Bryant. Kobe. 11.3 points a game, 5.8 rebounds, 2.4 assists the following year. And then in 2010, 2011, 2012, 10.2 points a game, 7.5 rebounds, 2.2 assists. And then he signs with the Clippers, Chris. He signs with the Clippers.
Goes with the Clip for a year.
And he's just got a bruised bone in his right knee, though.
And he's out for like 4 months or something. So,
29 games for him.
Well, and he said this after the Orlando surgery, which I thought was interesting. He said, if I have another major surgery, I'm going to retire. And then he proceeds to play almost a decade.
Yeah.
Which you see that.
That's tenacity.
And the amount of games he played with Phoenix where he didn't get injured. And you're like, oh, man, we really missed out on that 4 to 5 year period where he really would have been in his prime right after the Pistons with a Magic team that like probably would have made a at least conference final, if not final.
Yeah.
It is one of these careers, kind of like his dad's, where you see kind of gets derailed by injury.
Yeah, it's pretty sad. 2013, June 1st, he retires. However, he goes into the Naismith Hall of Fame in 2018 because he was just that good.
Yeah.
And anybody that played with him knew he was just that good, and it was injuries that limited what was already a Hall of Fame career.
I thought it was interesting. Leitner said he was like, Grant was the best player I ever played with. And he played with some great players.
Oh,
so
yeah. So, I mean, that's pretty fantastic for him. Finished his career 16.7 points a game, 6 rebounds, 4.1 assists. Honestly, what could have been, man. That's the saddest part. But now he's a part of an ownership group for the Atlanta Hawks.
Yep.
He does CBS and Turner March Madness because he is March Madness. He was March Madness when he played college basketball.
Yes.
And he's an affable guy. He knows a hell of a lot about the game. Like, why wouldn't you want him broadcasting it? And he's so much more likable than a douche like Tony Romo.
Oh, my God. Yeah, no, I actually really like him, and I normally don't like broadcast. Like, sometimes I'll turn the sound off because I'm like, this guy has no idea what he's talking about. Grant knows what he's talking about. He's been there. He's, like, literally someone that you want to hear. You're just like, yeah.
Like, when him and Weber do it, I'm just like, thank God.
Yes,
You
I
know?
love that.
Right? Like, two guys who should be there.
Yep.
Right? But yeah, Grant Hill, fantastic career, 7-time All-Star, co-rookie of the year, 2-time NCAA champion, and also the high school in Virginia Mr. Basketball. We can't forget that one. So
Thank you all.